So, I don't know when you're watching this video, but I am recording it in the heat of the heated rivalry craze. You might think that this video is a list of Sapphic sports romance books that are the lesbian equivalent of heated rivalry. All of these are YA novels. I'm so sorry. It's pure coincidence that while Heated Rivalry was airing, I happened to read a YA Sapphic sports book that was really, really good and made me go, why don't I just read like 7 more of these, 8 more of these? I don't know how many I read. It was a lot. What I did is I just went on my Libby and I looked at my TBR, and then I just read every single Sapphic sports book that was on there, and they all happened to be YA books. And I don't know if that's just because there are way more Sapphic YA sports books because kids play more sports than adults, or if only the YA books were available for me because all the adult books were checked out because you horny freaks are reading all the adult smut books. That might have been it. So all the adult sport romances were checked out and I got left with the kids' books for kids. That's fine. I like YA books. The only, I think, Sapphic adult sports romance book that I've read that I can think of off the top of my head is Cleat by Meryl Wilsner. If you want heated rivalry lesbian version recommendations, read Cleat by Meryl Wilsner. You've probably heard that recommendation already. It is very good though. It's about 2 professional soccer players who are on the same team, but they sort of have different styles. One is a very a well-awarded, established player, and the other is a rookie coming onto the team, and they have different clashing styles, and they hate each other, and they're vying for a spot on like an all-star roster, and then they sleep together a lot. I'll watch my language here because we're reading kids' books for kids today, so this is a kid-friendly channel. Not really. But if you're looking for adult romance sports books, I don't have any recs. I need the recs because I actually haven't read a lot of them. You'd think there'd be more, and maybe there are, and I just haven't read them. I'm sure there's a few out there. But we have like 8 or 9 books to talk about. Let's just get started. A lot of these books aren't things that I had a lot to say about. Because they're YA novels, a lot of them are very straightforward. You read the description and you go, I know exactly what this book is going to be, and then it is exactly that for a lot of these books. So I'll kind of just tell you the plots of some of them. But some are better than others, some had more things to comment on. But none of these videos warranted like a video of their own where I like really analyze it and talk about it for 20 minutes, except for this first book, which I did make a video on, and I did sit down and talk about for like 30 minutes. This first book was probably my favorite of the bunch. Again, it inspired me to do this video, so it's a really good book. That is Like Other Girls by Britta Lundin. This is a football book. At the start of the book, our main character is a basketball player. She gets into a fight with a teammate, and then she gets kicked off of the team, and her coach says you have to join another team sport to prove that you can be a team player, and I should let you back onto the basketball team next season. So she joins football. She's the only girl on the football team. It's an all-male team, but like there's no girls football team, so she has to join the male team. But she likes that. She's butch. At the start of the novel, she isn't like presenting butch, and like not everyone knows she's gay, but she knows she's gay, and she has this very butch mindset. Eventually does cut her hair and like appears more masculine. But she likes playing football, she likes being on the team, being one of the guys, but some of the other girls at the school see her doing this and think it's like some empowering feminist statement. And so 4 other girls join the football team so they can have like a feminist revolution. And our main character's mad about it because that wasn't what she was trying to do at all. It gets all this sort of attention, both positive and negative. All the boys are like, oh, there's so many girls on our team now and they don't even know how to play. And she also resents that, our main character, until she grows to become friends with these girls and teach them how to play and sort of help this team improve. And she just discovers that she really likes football and doesn't like her friends as much as she thought she did. But she sort of comes into herself, comes into her butchness. It's very like realistic portrayal of like this type of queer teenager. I think it's a really good book like for butch teenager representation. There's not a lot of those. And this like really gets into like some of the meat of that and like that sort of gender identity, sexuality identity exploration. It's not just a coming out novel. It's not a person realizing they're gay. It's a person grappling with how people perceive them and what they want to be perceived as and like how they feel about themselves. She is a girl, I don't know why I'm saying them, but just in general, the concept, you know what I mean. I think it's a great queer novel because it's not just a generic coming out experience. It's not a generic, I'm just now realizing that I'm gay experience. It's a little more deeper than that. It's like more niche. It feels like pretty, really authentic, like deeper queer, nicher exploration. It's not the same old coming out story, although there is some coming out. And it's also not focused on romance, although there is some romance. So I think it stands out amongst queer YA, and I also think it stands out amongst YA sports novels because it's actually like really focused on the sport. And like you see like all of their practices, all of their games. We learn about sports. I don't know anything about football. I learned some things about football and like the positions and like how you play. I don't know how you play football still, but like I learned a little bit about how you play football here. And all of our main characters really are like on this team, and so like we get all of these like emotional interpersonal conflicts happening like on the football field, during games, during practices, and like it's really centered on the sport. More so than most of these books are going to be. And I like it when a sports book is focused on the sports, because that seems like the staple of the genre. Like, it seems like that's what you would expect out of a sports book. But I have read plenty of sports books where the sports is just kind of like the flavor of the novel, and it's really just about the interpersonal relationships, and the main characters happen to play sports. This felt like it was actually about sports and like really handled football well. If you want to hear more about this, I do have an individual video on this one. I think this one was really good. It was really meaty. A lot of good stuff here. I like the realism. I like the representation. I like the butch lead. I love a butch lead. Butches, please. There's not like... This is the most butch. I think you could argue that some of these other characters are butchy coming up, but like this is like butch shit. And like it really talks about being butch, which appeals to my interests. Maybe not yours, but it does to mine, and I really like this one. This one was my favorite, 5 stars. Then I read All's Fair in Love and Field Hockey by Kit Rosewater. This is about a girl who is obsessed with field hockey. It's her whole life. Her dead mom used to play field hockey, and so she feels like she has to like become a professional field hockey player in order to make her dead mom proud. Field hockey is all-consuming for her. She needs the win. There is a rival team that is suddenly good this season, or like they have a new player who's a soccer player who transferred to the school, and now she's playing field hockey because she couldn't get on the soccer team. And she's like the bestest player ever, and she's like the only threat to our main character like winning this tournament and getting the scholarship and going to school for this and then becoming a professional field hockey player. So she becomes fixated on this girl. They have a match that they end up losing, our main character does. And so she's fixated on this girl who's like her rival. But she's also clearly gay panicking. Our main character here doesn't know that she's gay until she meets this girl, and like at first doesn't even realize that what she's feeling is attraction to her, even though the other girl's like pretty flirty. There's a lot of gay people in this. This is sort of like an idealistically gay universe where there's several other queer people in the novel. Our main character's older brother is a trans boy. Like some of the other girls on the field hockey team are gay, because of course they are. Some of the girls on the rival field hockey team are gay, because of course they are. But our main character is just realizing it and like just coming to terms with it herself, and then she sort of starts this secret relationship with this girl. They sort of have a back and forth at first where it's like a rival things, and they go to each other's school and try to like sabotage each other, but really they just kind of like talking to each other. They end up sort of like teaching each other things like on the field, like techniques, and then they have to like pay each other back, like, oh, she taught me something, I have to teach her something now. And so like it's really just an excuse to see each other. They eventually start a relationship, but it's a secret relationship because, you know, they're rival teams. And the YA message of it all here is that our main character needs to learn to stop making field hockey the absolute center of her life. There are other things in life. She doesn't have to do this one thing to make her dead mom proud. She should live for herself. There are other aspects of life besides sports and competition. So she grows to value other areas of her life. Now, for a main character whose defining characteristic is that she is obsessed with field hockey, we do not spend a lot of time on the field hockey team. I don't know anything about field hockey. I didn't know anything going in, and I don't know anything going out. A lot of this book is interpersonal drama. I mean, there's the backdrop of field hockey, and like the rival teamsness, and like you can't take field hockey out of this, but like it's not so centered on field hockey the way Like Other Girls was centered on football and was like really happening at football. And like they are at field hockey practice a lot, and they are doing games, and you do get moments in games where like they're actually playing and like passing and scoring and having triumphs and tragedies. But it's not like incredibly focused on the sport. If you're the biggest field hockey fan in the world, maybe you should read this, because I don't know how many field hockey books there are. I don't know anyone who plays field hockey. That's not a thing where I live. We did not have field hockey at my school. But for a person obsessed with field hockey, I could have done with more field hockey. But I might have just thought that because I was coming straight off the back of like Other Girls, which was really, really focused on the sport. But whatever. This is kind of what I expect out of YA. Most books aren't that focused on the sport, which is weird. I don't read like a ton of sports novels, but there's always less sports than I'd expect. I don't know. I think that is like a genre staple where you don't really care about sports, because like you can read them without having played sports. I don't play any sports, and I enjoyed most of these, and I enjoyed this one as well. It wasn't like my favorite, but it's fine. It's exactly what it says it's going to be. And so like I don't know how many people reading sports like romances really care about the sports. So whatever. You might not care about that. But I enjoy the realism of like really being in these kids' lives and having the sport be like a really big part of their lives, because they're going to practice multiple times a day and like thinking about it, and like all of the relationships they have there with that, and like all of their hopes and dreams residing on whether or not they get a scholarship, whether or not they win a game. And also to compare this to Like Other Girls. Like Other Girls does this thing where there's a lot of realism to it, where their football team is bad. Like the year before, I don't think they won any games. And in some YA books, you expect like the girls to come in, and then suddenly they're the best team in the state, and they're gonna win the championships, and it's all because they got a couple new players, and they're just so good, and they're the protagonists, they're the heroes, they're gonna save the day. And that doesn't really happen in this book. That team still sucks. They win a couple games, but like a couple new players doesn't magically revolutionize their entire team and their whole history of the school losing streak. So I like the realism of that. I like that they aren't playing for like spots in the NFL. You know, they're not playing for giant scholarships. None of these kids are going to school for this, really. It's just a sport that they like, and it's a hobby they have, and like they're learning about teamwork and friendship and like exercise and competition and struggles and adversity and how to overcome all of that. And like they aren't resting their hopes and dreams and professional careers on this. But in All's Fair in Love and Field Hockey, they are. But I think, again, that's a pretty staple piece of the genre, where like these teenagers are competing for scholarships, and like it does decide if they go to school, and it does decide if they can play professionally eventually. I don't know. It just depends what you want. This felt a bit more stereotypical of a sports novel. I prefer a little bit more of a realistic approach, but whatever. It's all up to you. It feels realistic enough. Because, I mean, there are plenty of kids that are trying for scholarships. I gave this one 3 stars. Maybe it's like a 3.5. I kind of remember it a little more fondly than 3 stars. 3 stars, like, stock standard average for me. And this was pretty average. Maybe it's like 3 stars. 3.5. It's in there. It's fine. It's exactly what you think it's going to be. The next book is It's a Love Skate Relationship by Carli J. Corson. This is about a hockey player who gets into a fight, gets kicked off of a team, ends up breaking something at the rink during this fight, and then has to pay it back. And in order to pay it back, she takes this gig as a figure skater's temporary skating practice partner. Because in the fight, in the breakage, in the kerfuffle, the figure skater, her partner, gets like injured, and then he can't skate, and so like she needs a replacement skater, and our main character knows how to ice skate. She's never figure skated, but she plays hockey, so she knows how to ice skate, and so she just starts practicing with this girl, and her mom's paying her because she's like a big time competition girl. She needs to win. She's going to nationals. She's a real figure skater. And at first they hate each other. They don't get along. They just like mesh. They're from 2 different worlds. Our main character doesn't want to do figure skating because she's never figure skated. She wants to play hockey. And then the figure skater resents the hockey player for breaking her partner's arm or leg, or I don't fucking remember. So this is an enemies to lovers scenario where they don't like each other and they're reluctant to work together at first, but It has to be done, and then they end up falling in love as they spend more time together. This one's like fine. It has a good rating on Goodreads, so like other people liked this. This didn't really work for me. I found this kind of cheesy. The sports stuff is not realistic. It's not. It's not realistic. There's no way. Spoiler alert, like the partner's not ready, and oh no, our main character, Carli, she's just supposed to be the practice partner until this other guy recovers, and then they can do the real routine in the real competitions. But guess what? Carli has to step in and do it during the real competitions. That's crazy. Who could have seen that coming? And then she's just like a great figure skater. Like, she's good enough to win regionals, or like not win, but like qualify. They place in like the top 4. I don't remember all the rules, but she's good enough to qualify for like these major competitions against people who have been skating for years and years and years, practicing figure skating, which is completely different than hockey. And then, oh no, the guy can't do nationals either, so Carli has to do the nationals competition. And then I think they win nationals. I don't remember. Who cares? You know how these books turn out. They do well. They do well enough. And then at the end of the book, they're gonna try out for the Olympics next year. She's gonna become an Olympic figure skater in like a year. I don't know about that one, Chief. I don't know about that one. Frankly, if I was the other girl who had been figure skating for like my entire life, like 15 years, let's say, and her mother is an Olympic figure skater who was her coach. If I had been skating for 15 years under the training of an Olympic figure skater, and then some hockey player bitch comes in and is as good as me in the span of a year, I'd be pissed about it. I'd be pissed. I mean, skill issue. It's not her fault. She's just that talented naturally. You know what I mean? But like, no. No. You can't do that. Even the idea that she's good enough to win a regional competition in like 6 months. No, she's not. That's not true. I don't believe you. So the sports stuff here is not good, and also I read some reviews that are like, none of this is accurate. These people who write figure skating books don't know anything about figure skating. What are they talking about? The description of this is totally wrong. You don't use toe picks during this moves. What are you talking about? This is totally inaccurate. So probably the hockey and the figure skating in this is not good. I couldn't tell you. I don't do either of those things. I'll say this book is probably the closest thing I've ever read to like one of those popular straight romance sports novels. I think there are several with this exact premise of like a hockey player and a figure skater who have to team up to do things. Icebreakers, is that what Icebreakers is about? I haven't read that. I'm not reading that straight shit. Probably like a couple of those books are actually good and like written by good writers, but like I think notoriously they're sort of popular slop that just like isn't very accurate, and but it's just like fun, and so people enjoy them even though it's mindless and inaccurate. This felt like reading one of those. Also, we have a Sapphic version of whatever that genre is. If that's a good thing. I mean, I guess it is. Gay people are allowed slop too. But I will also say that this book doesn't feel gay. It's gay. It's gay. We have a sapphic romance at the heart of this. But it's just like, it doesn't feel gay. Our main character, she's like kind of butch in that she's sort of a tomboy and like plays hockey with the guys. You know, she's kind of rough and tumble. But like, she like never thinks about being gay. Like, I don't know about you, but like, in my head, just like several times a day, I'm like, I'm gay. Gay. I just have gay thought. Like, I have gay essence and a gay being, and like I'm gay. And like I think about that, and I know that, and I'm very aware of that. And this character like never mentions hardly ever that she's like gay, and she's like one of the only queer women at the school, or that it's weird that she's playing hockey with the guys, and like she's so different from other girls. She like just doesn't think about her queerness at all. Which maybe some people like. Like, maybe some people really want a queer novel that is just like a straight novel, no different except for the love interest. But I don't know. I just feel like the queer experience is so othering, not even in a bad way, not even in like a she has to face all this homophobia kind of way, but just in like you know that you're different or like you're thinking about it, and it's not a bad thing. Like, but like you know it. You know what I mean? I think you know what I mean. I don't think this book knows what I mean. There's only a couple of moments where this character ever thinks about like being gay, and she's like, yeah, there's really no other girls today. I had a thing with some other girl at one point, but it's just like random backstory that gets brought up once, and like she doesn't ever like think about romance really until she gets with this girl. And I don't really like their chemistry because at first they hate each other, and this figure skater is kind of a bitch, but like you kind of understand it, but like she's kind of a bitch, and she's dating this like douchebag hockey player guy who's the most two-dimensional douchebag villain who says a bunch of sexist homophobic stuff. He sucks. There's no like redeeming qualities to him. He's not a fully fleshed out character. He's just the antagonist, there to be the shitty boyfriend so that our main characters can eventually dunk on him and win the day, and he gets dumped and she gets the girl. You know how it is. So the romance is kind of shallow and it's not like that compelling until the end. I kind of got into it at the end once we'd seen them together for a long while and they were actually like concretely flirting, but it's just not that gay and it's not that compelling of a romance, so I just like wasn't into it, and it's unrealistic. So like I think this was the worst of the bunch that I read, like objectively, but also some people want a cheesy, way idealized kind of book where they're gonna win the Olympics next year. Some people want that, and some people want queer characters that don't think about being queer all the time. But it was like weird to me. I don't know. It doesn't have to be a big deal that she's queer. Like maybe most of the people in her life are accepting and she's out and no one really cares. But like I just feel like gay people think about being gay more than this person thought about being gay. Call me crazy. But like genuinely, if you made Charlie a dude, you would only have to tweak like a couple lines and this would just be a straight romance and literally like nothing would change. So like queerness is like just not fundamental if that's what you're looking for. Something in Like Other Girls, like that's fundamental. You can't write that book the same way. Like if that character was straight or like a man or not a butch lesbian, it would be a different book. Like you'd have to completely rewrite the whole perspective and like large swaths of the book. This, you could just take the queerness out real fucking easy. Just change some pronouns. You're good to go. Not quite my thing, but maybe some people are into that. I don't know. The next book did figure skating a lot better. This is Spinning by Tillie Walden. This one is different because it is a graphic memoir. This is about Tillie Walden's time growing up as a figure skater. I guess it's centered around the ages of like her childhood up into like early high school age. And it's sort of about figure skating and how she is sort of like going through the motions, and like she moves cities and so she moves teams, she meets new people, she sort of discovers her queerness, sort of gets into relationships, sort of grows disillusioned with skating, feels kind of an outcast in it. So it's just a memoir. You're kind of just listening to this woman's life story or like her childhood story as it relates specifically to her time skating. But there are other things going on, and there's not like a clear plot, like beginning, middle, and end. It's just kind of like a life story, so it's a memoir. It's totally different. But there is a lot about skating here, and like it tells you some things about skating that I believed were actually true, and like how certain moves were done, or like the difference between an axel and a Lutz and a whatever else is going on in figure skating, and some behind the scenes stuff and like competition stuff. And she was just like a regular figure skater, and like she was pretty good, but she wasn't going for nationals, she wasn't going to the Olympics, and none of the people around her were trying for that either. They were just like on teams, like maybe doing like regional stuff. And again, she was good, but like not, I'm gonna go to the Olympics in 6 months good. So it's more realistic if that's what you're into. This is probably the most realistic because it was written by someone who did figure skating about her time as a figure skater. I ended up giving this 3 stars, kind of an average. It's fine. I think Tillie Walden's pretty good at setting a mood. It has this very reflective, somber mood that's sort of reflected in the art style as well. I've read several Tillie Walden books. This is probably my favorite writing from Tillie Walden. I read On a Sunbeam, which was really long and, like, kind of hard to follow. There were a lot of characters, and they all kind of looked the same. And it was really fucking long. I was skimming it. I was skimming a graphic novel. And that's a bad sign. And I was so sad, too, because that's, like, a cool sci-fi story, and it has Butch for Butch rep, and there's, like, no Butch for Butch rep, and I couldn't get into the Butch for Butch rep. That's terrible. That one didn't, like, blow me away. I was a little sad about that. And then I read this one. This one that I can't remember the title of, which is a bad sign. I can picture the cover. This was boring. I couldn't really tell you anything about it. I gave this, like, 1 star. Just because I, like, didn't like the characters, or, like, I didn't get a good sense of them. But it does have a mood, a tone. I think Tillie Walden is good at creating this sort of kind of, like, somber, nostalgic, sad girl tone that some people like. Not really my thing, but I think it works for this memoir specifically. And again, I think the writing was good here because it's literally her writing about her life, and it's not a 500-page sci-fi novel that was originally released as, like, a web series. But anyway, my favorite Tillie Walden books are actually the Tegan and Sarah middle grade novels. Those are pretty good, actually. I like them, but Tillie Walden didn't write them. Tegan and Sarah wrote them, and Tillie Walden illustrated them. So I like Tillie Walden books that Tillie Walden didn't write. Sorry. But I thought this was good. I think this was the best I've seen from Tillie Walden as a sole Tillie Walden project book. And I think it works as a good, like, figure skating book, and it's realistic. And some people will really, really like this, and some people do. Like, if you're into this kind of mood, into the kind of memoir vibes, I think you'll enjoy it. The drawings don't, like, blow me away, but again, there's, like, a style. There's a style. There's a mood. There's an atmosphere. There's an ambiance. And if you like it, you'll like it. Then the one middle grade novel I read was Crushing It by Erin Becker. This is a soccer story about a group of friends, and there's a big fight. They're all on the soccer team. There's, like, 4 friends. There's a fight. They get split up into groups of 2. We have a main character from each group here. The character I remember most is Magic Mel, who gets her mom to call her Magic Mel at the dinner table, even though she's, like, 13. That sounds like something you'd indulge a 6-year-old in. But whatever. 12-year-olds can have whimsy too, I guess. I think she's the captain, or, like, no, she wants to be the captain, but no one thinks she has the captaincy, and her one friend that she still has is, like, kind of bossy and talks for her, and so they have a rift. And she's a soccer player, but she also wants to be a poet, but her older sister is a poet, and so she's not a real poet like her older sister is, so no one can know about her poetry, and also she's really shy. And she's really mad at her old friend group, and our other main character, whose name I don't remember because she, like, started the fight. And she has an online pen pal who's definitely not that one girl that she totally hates in real life, who she kind of has a crush on and is, like, sharing her poetry with, but they don't know who each other are. And it's a little story about repairing your friendships and, like, finding your right friend group and, like, not clinging to people just because they're your friends, but, like, not getting into fights and, like, totally blowing people off just because of one little fight, and, you know, finding your self-confidence and finding what you like and doing your things. These 12-year-olds had a lot of drama. That's my review of this. There was a lot going on for these 12-year-olds. I didn't have as much drama when I was 12, but my life story when I was 12 would have been pretty boring, so we gotta have some drama for the 12-year-olds in the novels. I was not the target audience for this. I am 30 years old. Sometimes I like middle grade novels. I have read good middle grade novels that have, like, really emotionally affected me and that I've genuinely enjoyed reading as an adult. But sometimes you read a middle grade novel and you're like, oh, this is a book about 12-year-olds. This was a book about 12-year-olds, or, like, 13. I don't know. Who cares? What's the difference? This is a kid's book for kids, if you're into that. I'm sure 12-year-olds would probably like this and relate to parts of it. I didn't care as an adult. So, like, this was fine. I gave this 3 stars as, like, an average because it is a middle grade novel and I am not the audience. It was fine. I didn't hate it. It just wasn't for me. And it wasn't intended to be for me. So, like, don't listen to me. Then we have another soccer book, You Don't Have a Shot by Raquel Marie. This one was good. This one I gave 5 stars. It's very focused on the soccer. I like that in a sports book. I've said that. I think this was just about as sports focused as like other girls was, so I liked that. This is about a soccer player who's really into soccer because her dad puts a lot of pressure on her to perform well and like be the best soccer player. She's sort of comes off of a loss at the end of the season. They had like an undefeated season, but then they ended up losing like the championship tournament game, whatever. And her dad's mad at her and her coach is mad at her because I think, did they get in a fight? Lots of these kids get in fights at the starts of these novels. I don't remember. No, she does. She does. She gets into a fight with the other, the love interest. Spoiler alert. Not a spoiler alert. You know those books work. And she's a junior, and she knows that, like, she's gonna lose the captaincy next year, basically, because of this fight, she thinks. And she's, like, really disappointed in herself. She's disappointed her father. And some of her friends talk her into doing this soccer summer camp, where they're now old enough to play in, like, the teenage leagues. They did this summer camp before, like, when they were younger in, like, the little junior leagues. But now that they're, like, juniors, seniors, they can, like, do, like, real games. Or they're better games. And they get to captain themselves, and she goes here, and she gets to be a captain, but she has to co-captain her team with her mortal enemy / love interest. And they find out that at the very end of the summer, like, in the final tournament, like, the championship bracket or whatever, there will be college scouts there, and so our main character really does, like, want to win this and impress those college scouts and potentially get a scholarship and impress her dad. But this camp really isn't as serious as, like, her actual school leagues, and some of the girls here are just kind of here for fun. All the girls are in, like, the wrong positions, or, like, positions that, like, aren't suited to their strengths. They're really bad. Some of the other teams are really competitive and, like, shitting on her team. And she kind of has to whip her team into shape, and she sort of resents all of these girls for, like, not trying hard enough or not doing enough. And she learns, of course, like all the other books, to value other things, and, like, sometimes friendship is more important than winning at all costs. And she catches feelings for her rival. This has an asexual protagonist, which is the exact opposite of what you were looking for if you were looking for heated rivalry, Rex. Again, sorry. But I liked the ace representation, and there's also a lot of Latina representation here. Nice to read about not white people. A lot of these books were about white people. And I really like the sports. We learn a bit about soccer. Like, again, all the positions, like, she's captaining this team, so she has to find what these people are good at and put them in the right spots. And, like, we do see most of their games, if not all of them. We see most of them. And we see them playing, and we see them win, and we see them lose, and we see, like, what goes wrong, and the triumphs and the tragedies of the field. Sports ball. And it's actually focused on soccer. If you like soccer, you will like this book, and, like, the soccer aspects of it. Because they're at a soccer summer camp. Now, I did have some issues with, like, the logistics of this camp. There are, like, no adults around. There's, like, an office of adults where, like, they keep the records and, like, welcome them the first day. They don't do anything. There are no adults in the day-to-day operations of whatever these kids are doing. Theoretically, I think there are adults, like, monitoring, like, the younger kids in, like, the middle grade junior league or whatever. But these kids, like, the teenagers, they're captaining their own teams. They're leading their own practices. They're deciding their own practice times. There is not an adult in sight. And I don't know if that's accurate. I've never been to soccer summer camp, but I think there would be some adults chaperoning. Because sometimes they do leave the premise, and I do think they have to get permission to, like, leave. But, like, no one's, like, leaving with them and, like, supervising these minors who, like, have a car, I guess. I mean, they're old enough to, like, drive, so I think, like, one of them has a car. There's no adults. There's no adults around, which is weird. I felt like that was unrealistic. But, like, in the grand scheme of things, do I care about that? No, I care about the kids playing soccer. And I really liked all the aspects of that. I liked the relationship here. I thought this was, like, a genuinely pretty good, like, rivals to lovers kind of thing. There's a lot of, like, backstory and history to their relationship. They were both at this camp when they were kids, and that's sort of when the rift between them came. And they've been playing against each other for years, and they sort of know each other's quirks, and they know how to get under each other's skin. And there's also some mystery as to, like, what really went wrong between them, and, like, do they both see this as a rivalry, or do they maybe, like, have secretly harbored feelings for each other? for longer than just at this camp, you know? I think it's a really good relationship. I think the sports stuff's good. I like it. This one was really good. I gave it 5 stars. Now we're on to roller derby. We have Bruised by Tanya Boteju. This was another good one. Both of the roller derby books were good. Spoilers. Trigger warnings for self-harm here. That's a big part of this. So our main character, her parents have died. She is a teenager. She is living with her aunt and uncle, who are like weird theater people. They're kind of two-dimensional, and like their whole quirk is that they just like sing musicals all the time at home, and like do bows and like stage curtain. They just speak in like musical lyrics. They're weird theater people. And she is not a weird theater person. Her dad was like very tough and taught her boxing, and she has this idea that she has to be super strong. And so when her parents die and she has all of this trauma, she does not cope with that well. She self-harms by bruising herself, and she eventually gets into roller derby because she likes all the physicality of it and the fact that these girls are like slamming into each other on the track and like hurting each other. She wants to get hurt. And she's never done roller derby before. She's a skater, and she has a best friend who's a skater, who's this cool non-binary person named Fee, who takes her to the roller derby track where she gets into this. And she obviously grows to like the sport for the sport itself and like the people she's met and the friends she's made. And she's not just there to hurt herself anymore. She ends up in this sort of complicated relationship, not quite love triangle, but kind of love triangle with these 2 sisters that are on the team. Well, one's like the star of the team. She's the older sister, Kat. I don't know if she's gay at all. It's not really a romantic thing there, but Daya really wants to impress Kat, because Kat sort of reminds her of her father in that she's sort of hard. She's like the leader here, and she's in charge, and she's really kind of a hard ass. And she's sort of a hard ass to her younger sister, whose name is Shanti. Shanti is the younger sister. She's not actually on the team. She does like management stuff and like does like designs for them. She's involved with the team, but I don't think she plays. Does she? I don't think she plays. I don't remember. And Shanti is a bit more like softer and emotional, and she's the love interest. And she sort of looks out for Daya, but Daya doesn't quite recognize that right at first. Daya doesn't know she's queer, even though she's like very queer coded, and everyone in her life basically just assumes she's queer. She's like, no, I'm not queer. I don't like girls. They're too like girly and soft, you know. I'm a hard ass. And she's been with men before, but she never really liked it. And then when she gets with a girl, she's like, oh, I might actually be gay after all. They might have been onto something. So we've got kind of an interesting coming out story here, where everyone like knows she's gay before she knows she's gay. And she learns to see that, you know, sometimes it's okay to be soft and vulnerable, and to care about people, and to stop being like such a hard ass and so hard on herself, and thinking that, you know, toughness and strength is the only way to do things, or that there's only one specific way to be tough and to be strong. And I believe she's in therapy, and so like she is getting some help for like the self-harm stuff. I don't think she tells her therapist about that at first, but like over the course of the novel she kind of grows out of that. I really like this one. I thought it was like deeper than like a cliche sort of sports story. It's not necessarily so focused on sports, but it's not really a sports book. This is really about this woman's personal journey, and sports just happens to be a part of her sort of recovery and growth process, and it's where she finds community. So I don't mind that this isn't like super roller derby focused, although I do learn about roller derby. When you have a character who's learning about a sport, then you as the reader also learn about a sport a little bit more. So I liked that. This was like a good introduction to roller derby for me, because I don't really know anything about roller derby. But I thought it was fun. I thought it was interesting. I think it's deeper than some of the other books on the list. The only critique I could give is that I don't know that Daya really felt like a teenager. I don't know, she just like feels older, and she talks about like these hookups she's had with these other guys, and she, I don't know, like hangs out with the team, and they're all like older. Like there's no like age range on this team, and most of them seem to be adults, and like some of them are in their 20s, some of them are like older than that, I think, but like it's like an adult team, but they let minors onto their team, which like seems weird. I don't know the rules to roller derby. I don't know like how the specific league functions, but like I feel like there'd be more regulations about that, or like different tiers. Because in the next roller derby book, there is, like, mention of, like, adult teams versus, like, junior teams or whatever. In this, they were just, like, fine with having minors on their teams, and, like, the captains would, like, buy the kids, like, alcohol and, like, give it to them. And I'm like, are you not, like, concerned about, like, league regulations, parents getting mad at you for being an adult, like, in a guardianship role of a minor child? I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. Maybe it's not that deep. Maybe it's like a really not like organized sort of derby organization, kind of underground, but like they're doing big shows and like people come watch them. And they're in like a league with other teams and they play against other teams that like travel there. I don't know. It felt like a lack of regulation, and that sort of made it feel like this character was older than she was. Like, at one point, I was convinced that she was in college. Because she doesn't talk about school a lot, either. I mean, she is in high school, and we do get a couple mentions of that. And she talks about how she doesn't like school. And so it makes sense that she's not thinking about it much. But, like, she, like, isn't thinking about it much. And she's just sort of acts older. And maybe that's because she's sort of had to toughen up and grow up quicker. And also her parents are dead. And so maybe she just doesn't feel like a child. But even, like, her experience, like, her life experience felt early 20s and not necessarily like 16, 17. But there genuinely was a point where I'm like, is she in college? Is that what school she's in? But why is she living with her aunt and uncle? Like, maybe she just doesn't have the money and she had to live with them, but she seems like a kind of girl who would just go off on her own if her parents died. She wouldn't rely on random family members she doesn't know very well. No, she is a minor. She's a child. And it didn't quite feel like that, but I don't know. I guess people have different experiences. There's no one way to be a teenager, I guess. Whatever. That was sort of a minor critique. I still really like this book, and I gave it 5 stars. The last book, another roller derby book, Leave It on the Track by Margot Fisher. This is also about a girl whose parents die. Trigger warnings here for, like, death and PTSD and, like, some, like, bodily harm. The first chapter of this is our main character is in a fire. Her 2 dads own a roller rink, and it goes up in flames, and both of her dads die. And then she has to go live with her sister, who is like a half-sister. She doesn't know very well, hasn't seen her in years, but she's suddenly moving from Utah to Portland to go live with her sister. And she's also, like, injured. She had a trach. She was in the hospital for, like, a month after the fire. She sounds weird, she has a scar, like, she feels weird, she was in the hospital, so her body, like, looks different, she's lost muscle mass, she's sort of just, like, uncomfortable in a totally new situation, her world totally shaken up, she does have PTSD, there are things that, like, trigger memories of the fire and of her dad's dying, so this is heavy, and it's another book that is less focused on the sports, but it wasn't really trying to be a super sporty novel in the first place, but the sports do play a major role in her growth and her recovery. Her sister is a roller derby player, and so she ends up going with her sister to the roller derby rink, and it sort of helps her get back into skating, because she really likes skating. Her dads were skaters, they owned a skating rink, but she's very apprehensive of skating, again, but this helps her get into it, and she likes the physicality of it. She likes that there's all kinds of people here, all kinds of different types of people, and they all have some of their own problems, and she kind of fits in here with her sister. Now, both she and her sister are also gay, which is cool. Like, they're dads. A lot of gayness in this family. There's even a joke that, like, everyone in your immediate family is fruity. But she's from Utah, where that was, like, not okay, and, like, her dads were treated differently because they were the only out gay couple in this small Utah town. And so when she comes to Portland, and everyone is out and gay and looks gay and is totally comfortable with that, and, like, her teachers ask her what her pronouns are, and she's just like, it's a total fish out of water here, and she doesn't even, like, come out right away, because in Utah she wasn't out. She knew she was gay, and everyone called her gay just because she had gay parents, but she was not out, and now she's in this totally new environment where, like, everyone's out all the time. Everyone's super gay, and she doesn't even know how to handle that. She's got sort of imposter syndrome about her role in the queer community that she has to work through the book. So that's a different queer perspective, and I liked that. And I liked that she knew she was gay, and, like, she'd known, like, forever, and obviously her family were accepting. So that was a good queer story, different than, like, a classic coming out. And it felt really realistic, and not, like, super idealistic, even though everyone's gay. But some of these books, like, everyone's gay, and it's just, like, this some sort of fake utopia where everyone's just like very shallowy surface level gay and no one cares about that and it's fine. But this felt like a real world scenario where she was afraid to come out and there was homophobia, but she just happened to be in this queer friend group and have a queer family. I also thought the depictions of like PTSD were pretty realistic. I think she's a very messy teenager. She makes mistakes. She sort of rebels against her sister's authority because her sister's like a sister, but now she's a guardian who's legally responsible for this minor. She's never done that before. She didn't expect to do that. They don't know each other very well, but they are definitely related. They do kind of know each other, but she's sort of playing the role of parent and sister and friend and stranger. So they have a messy dynamic, and we have this girl who's like not okay, and she's having panic attacks, and like she doesn't know what to do with herself or like how to cope with this. And she does get into therapy, and over the course of the novel she does, you know, learn coping mechanisms and sort of grows to love her sister, grows to love her new community in Portland. But she's definitely not like a perfect person. She makes mistakes, she makes bad decisions. Sometimes you think she's kind of dumb, or like sometimes you empathize with her, and sometimes you're like, kid, what are you doing? Stop doing that. And you empathize more with the sister. I think it's a good, heartfelt, emotional journey that's really about the person and not the sport. But you do learn a bit about the sport, again, because we're watching a character learn about sport. She doesn't know anything about roller derby, but she comes onto this team and she's pretty good. And, you know, and sometimes she's bad, and sometimes she makes bad calls. And sometimes she's a good teammate, and sometimes she's a really bad teammate. And she kind of has to learn that not everything is about her. But there's a good amount of sports stuff here. But really, like, the heart of the novel is, like, her emotional journey. But there's plenty of roller derby going on. And I love this cover. This is a beautiful cover. It's like a collage. Pretty. And she's a jammer, because she's got the star on her helmet. I learned something. I learned something. I am educated now. In Bruised, Daya is a blocker and not a jammer. If that matters to you. I think it does, because I was reading some other reviews who are like, man, the main character in these roller derby stories is always a jammer, because they're like the heroes who like score the points, and the blockers don't get enough love. Daya's a blocker if you want that, if that matters. This was good. Another 5-star read, give or take. Close enough to 5 stars that I gave it 5 stars. And that's it for now. There are a lot more of these. These were just what was currently available at my library to read. I will probably read more of these. Not right now. I'm a little sportsed out. I'm okay. I was in my sports era. We're past my sports era. I'm sorry these weren't heated rivalry recs. I'm sorry none of these books were sexy. Sorry. I maybe I'll do a book about adult sports romances at some point, but I have to read more of them, and I just haven't done that yet, so I'm sorry. But if you want YA, most of these are good, and even the sort of bad ones, maybe you'll like them more than I did, because I think a lot of these books come down to preference. They're exactly what they say they are. They're YA novels. Read the description. If it sounds like your thing, you'll like it. But that's it. Have a good day. Also, I got a new bookshelf. Do you like it? I like it because it holds more books, but it does make the camera angle look weird here. And like I used to put text up here because it was like a clear background, and now there's books there, so I guess I gotta put things over here now. Oh well, I'll make it work.